Good stewards show their trust in God by living like angel wings. They let go and let God. Our gospel passage today is a beautiful passage. I love it. And it's essentially about trusting in God. But it's awfully hard sometimes to trust in God. When life's storms come around, when all those problems that all of us face from time to time seemingly overwhelm us, it's hard to trust in God. Yet Jesus says if we want heaven, we must trust in God. Now, there are three rules that govern trusting in God. And they're important, so pay attention. 1, God promises us heaven, not heaven on earth. We are all going to have problems. Number 2, even when we most want to trust in God, we may never feel connected with God. We may never have that warm and fuzzy feeling. And rule number 3, one we're all very familiar with, God gives us what we need. What we need, not necessarily what we want. So if we are going to trust in God, basically what we've got to do is let go and let God. We've got to say, I don't like this problem. I'm praying I want to get rid of this problem. God's not answering me. My problem is still here. So I accept it as God's will. I'm going to learn from this problem. No matter how hard it is to learn from this problem, I'm going to learn from this problem how to be a holier person. I'm going to take this problem. I'm going to learn from this problem by the empathy that I have as a result of this problem, how to reach out to others who are in trouble and help them. Here's a modern parable. It's based on a true story. It took place about 100 years ago. Ken had a great friend. His name was Arthur, and Ken admired Arthur. Seemed like no matter what happened in life, no matter how many storms God blew at Arthur, no matter how many troubles he had, he was always calm. He always accepted what happened in his life as what God wanted to happen in his life, and he did his best to become a better person by dealing with them. One day, curiosity got the best of Ken, and he asked Arthur, how can you stay so incredibly calm no matter what's happening in your life? And Arthur said, well, let me tell you a story. It happened in the 20s, the 1920s. I was the wonder kid on Wall Street. I made millions and millions and millions of dollars. But along came 1929. The stock market crashed, and overnight, I had nothing. I was not only not a multimillionaire, I didn't have a penny. All I had left was the remaining weeks on 1 month's rent on my penthouse apartment at the very top of a huge building overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. So I bought a bunch of bottles of booze, and I went up to my penthouse, and I got rip-roaring drunk. On the third day, I had no booze left. I was standing looking out the window at the ocean, and a storm, a beaut of a storm, was coming in. The waves were sky high. They were powerful. And I knew what I wanted to do. I was going to go walk into those waves and die. So I left my apartment building. I walked across the beach. I got near the edge of the water, and those waves were even higher than I thought. More powerful than I could imagine. The roar was overwhelming. And then I saw a little white, almost like a speck, come in off that water and land on the sand, and I looked down at it, and it was beautiful. It was a seashell. Fragile. Paper thin. No, tissue thin. And I began wondering, how could that fragile little seashell survive that horrific storm? And then God spoke to me. And I realized that seashell survived because it didn't fight the storm. It went with the storm. It floated in on those waves. And it was in perfect condition. And I realized God was giving me a metaphor for life. God was telling me, Arthur, don't fight against the struggles in your life. Go with them. Allow me to use those struggles to teach you how to become a better person, how to deal with those struggles, and out of the empathy that you have because of those struggles, help other people, and in doing so, love them and earn your ticket to heaven. And Ken said, Arthur, by any chance do you still have that seashell? And Arthur said, I do. Turned around, came back a minute or so later, and had a box. And carefully laid on velvet inside the box was the seashell. And Ken asked, Arthur, what is it called? And Arthur said, it's known as an angel wing. My sisters and brothers, we are called to live our lives like the angel wing, not to fight against all of life's struggles, to work with them to become better people. That's trusting in God. Here's another modern parable, also based on a true story. I've been telling a lot of stories lately about a parishioner. His name isn't Carl, but I want to protect his identity, so we'll call him Carl. Carl has been diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And in the early phases of that just absolutely nasty, terrible disease, the disease has struck the muscles in his throat, so he can't talk, just make guttural sounds. And he can't swallow, so he's lost the great enjoyment of food and drink. But at least at this point, the rest of his body is still working well. He can still drive, he can still get around. I meet regularly with Carl, and he communicates with a tablet. It's got a keyboard and it's got a screen. He asks me questions by typing it in and showing me what he's asked on the screen. I answer, and vice versa. I'll ask him a question, and he will type in his answer. And I met with him recently, and I asked him, have you been to the doctor lately? Typed in yes. What is he telling you? So he told me this week to prepare for it getting a lot worse. That eventually everything in my body is going to shut down other than my mind. I'll be kept alive by machines. I asked Carl, are you angry with God? He typed back, a little bit. I asked, what are you going to do about it? He typed for quite a while, and his answer was, learn from it. Learn how to be a better person. You know, Father, he typed, this disease can have my body, but it can't have me. I will always still be me. And I asked him, so are you depressed? He said no. I asked, well, what are you doing to have a good time? He typed in, last week I went dancing with a lady friend. How is he learning, Carl, from this horrible disease that God has given him? It's a storm in his life. Well, he's giving the parish several hundred additional dollars a month dedicated to going to Africa to Fathers Raphael and Zachary, the two Ugandan priests who were seminarians and spent time with us here at Visitation of Our Lady. My sisters and brother, Arthur understands. Carl understands. Do we? We are all called to be good stewards. And good stewards show their trust in God by living like angel wings. They let go and let God.